it's crazy to me just how much conversation there has been surrounding my body.
Madison from Love is Blind season 9.
Did you think that Casey had anything to do with the decision to call it off?
It felt like a completely different person. Like,
Was there anything else that had happened off camera?
yeah, watching that back was really, really disgusting to watch.
She's a narcissist.
Ultimately, it did lead to me having an eating disorder.
It's great to be able to have this conversation about disordered eating. Welcome back to the Blonde Highlights podcast.
Today we are with a very special guest. She is the amazing, the beautiful Madison from Love is Blind season 9. Hi.
Thank you guys for having me.
God, we are so excited that you're here.
I can't wait to be here. This is amazing.
And if you're listening on audio, she is wearing this beautiful green dress over here. She's glowing.
Yeah, she's serving a look. She's here. She's like, you know what? I'm going to turn up here for this one. This is so cute.
I had to do all highlights. Just had to show out for you guys.
Yes.
Right? We love it. We love it. We have to tell you that we knew that we were going to be like an instant connection. And I knew in my heart the moment that you said that part of your ideal date was going to 7-Eleven.
So many people have been loving that. It's like, who doesn't love a snack, a little Slurpee, a little flaming hot Cheeto action?
All of it. Honestly, we're frequent flyers. Hey, Kyle.
Yeah, I'm on a first name basis.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
with Angel and Sky on the night crew at my 7-Eleven. But
I love that.
yes.
So getting into the show, what was it like living with all the other girls? Like, what was that like? Was it giant sleepover party vibes or like what?
So it's actually interesting because we do not stay together. So when you see us in the lounge, that's actually a set that's connected to the pods. And then when we're done filming, we take a shuttle back to a hotel and we each have our own individual rooms. So not a big sleepover vibe, not a house. Like literally we're very separate when we're not on camera.
I thought this whole time you guys were living in that area like The Bachelor.
No, a lot of people think that, but no, we actually have our own hotel rooms and we're told do not go to each other's rooms and talk. Yeah.
So you're not even allowed to like go in and debrief together or anything. All the communication has to happen in the lounge area.
Yeah, they want all of it on camera. There was actually one night that Anna came by my room the night that she left. And
Yeah.
she was too, but yeah, no, we're kind of very separate when we're not filming in the lounge or in the pods.
Wow, that's lonely.
Honestly, it was nice because it's like you're doing so much and like you're talking so much to the point that I literally had a raspy voice my entire time I was on the show. Actually have a little bit of separation and kind of decompress on my own.
Yeah, no, that's true. That's true.
Yeah, that would be nice. I was thinking like school field trip style hotel rooms. Did you ever put the masking tape on the door so they know if you tried to get out?
No, but yes, I totally know what you're talking about. It wasn't to that level, but I definitely say
Amazing.
I was going to say, and speaking of raspy voice, if you're listening, my voice does sound different because I'm just getting over something. But I wanted to ask you, like, getting into it, how was it seeing Joe for the first time in person?
Seeing him in person, it's like there's such a heightened emotions already, right? Like you're standing in front of this door. All you're told is you're going to see some flashing lights. Just keep standing. Like you don't know when the doors are going to open. So, when the doors did open, I was really trying to carry the same kind of energy, connection, everything that I felt in the pods into real life. And I was like really just focused on bringing that same energy so that he felt the same Madison in the pods that he felt in person. I definitely did not necessarily get that in return.
Mm-hmm.
Seeing him in person, like I didn't really have a preconceived idea of what he looked like necessarily. Like I just knew Italian cowboy is kind of all I had to go off of. So seeing him in person, it was a lot. It's a really intense moment. I actually say this in a deleted scene where I'm like, you were a little bit of a spaz, like there was a little bit of intensity there, and I kind of chalked it up to nerves. But yeah, for me, I just was really focused on making sure that he felt my authentic self that he also felt in the pods.
Yeah.
No, for sure. I feel like there's a huge buildup, especially if you're just standing there waiting for the doors to open. That's a huge buildup.
Yeah, I mean, we have 10 days of being in the pods and getting to know this person, and then it's just all of a sudden you're like, holy shit, this is happening. It's very outer body. I feel like I kind of dissociated for half the
I love that.
Did you feel like there was any change in the dynamic after seeing each other in person?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. It felt like a completely different person. Like it did not feel like the person that I got to know and fell in love with and, accepted a proposal from in the pods.
Wow. So like that much of a night and day difference.
I'd say so, just the way that he communicated was very different. Obviously seeing somebody's facial and being able to kind of gauge a little bit more body language, it's very, very different.
Yeah. Yeah. So he, as we know, had made this statement about normally dating, the petite women, which anyway, we're not going to go off on that and how much that enraged me, but how did that affect your own body image?
I mean, there's so much to unpack with that, honestly. And I think that it was enraging to a lot of women. It's been really sad seeing people comment like, well, if she's big, what am I? It's the weight of words is something very serious. And, for me personally, I had never had body image issues. I mean, I think like any woman, I was aware of maybe I want to lose a couple pounds or, normal kind of insecurities. But being in this situation that is already so emotionally heightened, and then hearing somebody say that was jarring, and it really threw me to kind of an insecure space. And unfortunately, for the rest of filming, I was really operating out of that insecure place. And you see that, me trying to get reassurance, and it almost comes off as a little bit like needy or clingy. And that's unfortunately the way that I responded to, his comments. And ultimately, it did lead to me having an eating disorder. From that point forward, probably until 4 months after filming. And I had to really, do a lot of self-work. I have an incredible therapist and an incredible support system, but it's definitely still something that I struggle with mentally. It's like an eating disorder doesn't just go away. It's like battling your own mind and those thoughts that come with it.
Yeah. And that's something we've actually spoken openly about on the podcast. Like I've suffered with bulimia for 10 plus years. And finally I'm at a point where, it's been 3 years and I've been like, it's been managed, but it's triggered by different things. And what concerned me was when I was watching the episode and hearing him say that, I was like, how triggering this for women at home. Like I'm a plus size woman. You in no means are a plus size woman at all. So for him to make a comment like that, I was like, how is this damaging other women? So what advice would you have for other women that either saw that or maybe are dating someone that kind of has that same outlook?
Gosh, it's a good question. I think for the women that are dating somebody with that same outlook, honey, that's not your man. First and foremost, like you are not your body. You are your heart, soul, goals, mind. You are so much more than your body. And I think that as women, that is something that there's far too much, unfortunately for the pun, too much weight on what we look like. It makes me really sad that some women are dealing with that. And, as far as for it being triggering or hearing that, being your truest self will bring the truest love. And I think it's just a matter of really leaning into who you are, getting solid in your heart and your mind and your soul, and not allowing your body to be the definition of who you are as a person.
Love that.
Exactly.
It's a beautiful advice.
And I think it's great. I mean, it's terrible what was said, but it's great to be able to have this conversation about disordered eating and how words have implications and, meaning. And that was my thing too with disordered eating. It does kind of trigger you even as like an audience member too, because you're thinking, well, what the hell am I? And so I think it's amazing to be able to talk about that platform and to help other women.
Absolutely. And it's something else that's hard is, with this platform and this much kind of scrutiny that comes with this, there are always going to be naysayers. I've had people literally telling me like one comment didn't cause an eating disorder. And it's like, No, maybe not, but it definitely triggered something in me. It brought something out in me that I didn't know was even there.
Exactly. And you can't compare this situation because this is happening on national television in front of, millions of people. This is being said.
Yeah, absolutely. It's crazy to me just how much conversation there has been surrounding my body. It's like
Yeah.
the least interesting thing about me, and it has become such a piece of my story. And it's like, you know what? I will 100% use that to connect with other women that are struggling with body dysmorphia or struggling with, eating disorders like I did. And it's just interesting. Like even in one of my interviews, I had somebody ask me like, how does it feel being asked about this all the time? And I'm like, oh, not great. And then in that same breath was, how much weight have you lost and how? And it's like, come on.
No, no. I think it's important to bring it up as like a topic to be like, hey, listen, this is what happened. This is how I've overcome this. And if you're in this situation, but again, like there doesn't need to be any more emphasis. And I hope that he takes some real accountability for what he says. And I hope that this is a lesson for other men who are on the show to be like, you need to watch what you're saying. Like, obviously, women say things too about how the men look and whatever, but like there needs to be something because it's so damaging to women.
And after this was said, did it really like change the dynamic of the relationship at all?
Yeah, I think it did because all of a sudden I'm no longer acting from a place of confidence or, where I usually operate from. It's like suddenly I'm operating from this place of feeling inadequate and this feeling of, well, am I enough for you? Like, am I okay? And so, yeah, the dynamic absolutely changed. And, I can take responsibility from my end that I was absolutely not as patient. I was not as confident, and that affected, I think, our communication and our dynamics. It's when you're operating from a place of insecurity, you're not able to be your best self.
No. And I honestly, and it's interesting because I remember seeing almost like a shift in you from your very outgoing and bubbly personality to then I could notice it. And I was like, okay. And I knew right away, I'm like, he must have said there's got to be something that had said that it was his fault. Like, I hate Joe. Like that, we're putting it down to that. But this isn't the first time that I've seen this on the show before. And it's brutal. But moving on from it, we don't want to put too much more emphasis on it. But so there was a wild night that happened when you guys were away and Joe needed to go take a nap. Now, I feel like, was there anything else that had happened off camera that they didn't show? Or his reaction was very interesting. He was way too confused. I understand that you're intoxicated. I understand that. But like, was there something else that happened that we didn't get to see or a way that he handled it that we didn't get to see?
Obviously I can't speak for Joe as far as, how much he drank or what exactly was going on there. But, from my experience, what happened for me behind the scenes was he left and then I was actually at the pool party for a good 4 or 5 hours longer. So the party went on and then I stayed back and was talking with production for a while. And they gave me the option, Madison, either you're going to go get your own room or we're going to go film as we told you and Joe this morning that you guys were scheduled to do tonight. And I was like, well, of course I want to go check on him, so I'm getting so much backlash for people being like, why are you waking up a drunk guy? It's like, we were scheduled to film. Like we both knew what was happening that night. And I was told, go in and check on him. Like, so it's not the kind of thing that I'm going in and just going to bed. There's other factors that led me to go wake him up. And speaking just from my personal standpoint, my dad had addiction issues. So when Joe was waking up and acting kind of incoherent, like this isn't unfamiliar to me, And
Yeah.
so a lot of people are saying like, well, Madison, why didn't you leave then? Like, why wasn't that like the red flag to be done? And it's like, well, because I grew up with somebody that would act the same way in those kind of moments. And so it didn't feel unfamiliar. It felt like something that I can work through. Even though it should have been a bigger red flag than it was for me.
Well, and I think it's also too, like everybody can sit there and give the backlash again, but it's also like, I feel like you also, even if you weren't filming, maybe want to wake him up and make sure that he's good. Like, are you hydrated? Like, you've been passed out in here for hours. Like, are you okay? So I just think people are so quick to jump to different things. And I feel like we're only seeing one side of everything. So, but I don't blame you. I would have been waking him up too and trying. And you know what? I think that it was for me when I saw that. It was a red flag for me because I was like, this is not his first time being this. Like, I can't again speak, but it was a very big red flag for me.
Yeah, absolutely. And it should have been, you know?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things I've heard talked about is, did you think that he was slightly different when the cameras were on versus how there was a relationship with you in real life?
Yeah, I do. Something that I became aware of is that Joe is very aware of his own perception, his public perception. You see when we're fighting in Mexico, he's kind of looking around for the camera and he's like, stop saying that, Jesus Christ. Like, so you kind of see these moments of him being very aware, and he was very aware of the cameras. Um, on and off camera, yeah, very confusing. It's like it was weird to me because I actually felt like sometimes off camera he was a little bit more reassuring, a little bit more engaged. And it kind of got to the point where I even asked him, like, are you trying to make it look like you're not into me? Like, what is going on here? And I don't know. I don't know if it's truly just that he was nervous around the cameras, but at the same time it's kind of like you knew what you signed up for. So definitely, best way to put it, consistently inconsistent.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought he was narcissistic. I was watching him and I was like, there was a few times in Mexico that I noticed it. And then a part of your breakup that we'll get to it that I was like, he's a narcissist. And I know it's, the time and age to just call everyone a narcissist and gaslighting and all of that. But he very much had narcissistic tendencies that I have experienced before in past relationships. And I was like, I see you.
You and a lot of women, it's like I've had so many messages of people being like, I was in a relationship that was emotionally abusive and I see parts of that. And, I'm not calling him that. And I wouldn't necessarily label him a narcissist, but I agree. There was definitely some things that lended itself to that conclusion.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think just in men in general, not just with him, I do notice a lot of like guys are so worried about like what their bros think versus, what their girl thinks or whatever.
I know it seems very like an immature thing where he's like, it was kind of one of those things where he was like putting on the persona like, oh, I only date like a type of girl, and then behind camera, man child, I can't. I'm sorry. Maybe I shouldn't be bashing Joe as much as I am, but like I am for the girlies, and like he pissed me off so much. And I liked him at first.
Ew.
Right. Oh wow. Okay, so we saw you going and getting your dress and having that experience. And as a viewer, it's so exciting. It's so beautiful. And then it switches over to Joe's experience, and it is the complete opposite. He walks out. He's like just a man child. Now, did anybody tell you that he left or that happened? Like, did Joe communicate any of this to you?
No. So yeah, watching that back was really, really disgusting to watch. What happened that night is I finished my dress fitting and they actually kept me late on set. They had to, do measurements for alterations, whatever. And then they kept me because they said they wanted to do more interviews. Well, that interview didn't happen. I'm sitting literally as they're like packing out the set. Like I had like photos of behind the scenes. And it's at this point probably like 8:30. And I'm texting Joe like, hey, I'm about to be on my way back to the apartment. Like, are you home? And he's like, oh, we went out to a bar in Denver. So I'm like, oh, okay, well, I'll meet up with you. I go home, I change, I come to this bar. It's me and him. It's his two guys from the tux fitting. And then a bunch of singles showed up. And I'm like, how did they even know where we were? It was so bizarre. Weird. Very weird. And so I'm standing there and I'm, talking to his groomsmen. Like I'm showing them photos of my dress. Like I'm excited. Like I just picked up, having a great time. I'm telling them how much I love him and that I want to do this with him. And he's right there. And nobody's telling me anything. And look, I understand from the guy's perspective, like I wouldn't out my girl. You know what I mean? So I understand that I think in their minds it's kind of like, this is between them.
Yeah.
But what's sad is that Joe had every opportunity to tell production, like, I need to talk to Madison tonight. Like, if it's something that needs to be on camera, like, let's get that going, instead of having me go out to a bar and look like an idiot, honestly, in feeling so sure about him. And yeah, nobody told me. And I didn't find out until later that night when he and I kind of had to sit down. So
Yeah. Well,
Exactly.
now he looks like the idiot because everyone's pissed off at him for that because there's that line of respect where it's like if you couldn't do it and if you couldn't have your fitting, he could have at least messaged you, called you and be like, "Listen, we need to sit down and talk." Like you said, got production and just cleared the air with you, but instead, yeah, letting you go around and seeing you go around the bar and showing people your dress, like there's something to me that I'm like that is not okay.
yeah, I mean, it's cruel. It was cruel.
Yeah.
Yeah. And did you think that Casey had anything to do with the decision to call it off?
I don't know. I can't speak for him or her. I have my own thoughts, but I don't know. I can't speak on the speculation. I just know that what happened there was disrespectful on both ends. And, Joe ultimately had the responsibility to me. And while I
Yeah.
think it was pick me behavior, at the end of the day, he was my fiance, and it should have been on him to shut that down and communicate with me.
Yeah. And did he communicate that at all with you prior to the breakup? Like, did he say anything? Like, he had his
Um,
hands on his chest or anything?
I mean, that's what I saw. Like, I saw them talking and, hands on chest. And in his words, oh, yeah, Casey was giving me googly eyes. That was his words. So, yeah.
Because us as viewers, we didn't know that that night had gone down. And then during your breakup scene, when you had mentioned it's interesting that this happened on the heels of the night when all the singles came out, I was like, my mouth dropped. I'm like, what is he talking about? I'm like, where, what? Like, I was shocked and I was like, I need to know what she's talking about. But I knew women don't just say that when they don't think anything happened. You know what I mean? So, like, clearly something had happened. And I was like, we're just gonna have to wait to hear about this.
Yeah. Well, I wish I could speak to it more, but it's a little bit under wraps right now.
Yeah.
But I do talk about that at the reunion, which is next week. So, yeah, you definitely will get a lot more tea next Wednesday.
Exactly.
Okay.
Well, maybe we can have you on later and get into it.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, don't even say that. I got goosebumps. You're coming back for the reunion episode.
Throw down.
So now, again, we can't speak too much about everything, but watching it back now and after you've seen it all and knowing everything that you know now that's been going on outside of the bubble, is there any way that you would handle the breakup differently? Is there anything that you would have said differently, or what are your thoughts now?
Well, watching it back, I would have run after in Mexico. It's like watching it back, I'd have been like, nope, like the end. But of course, hindsight is 2020. I think there are moments that, like our conversation in the kitchen, like that was definitely a 40-minute conversation that was spliced into something very small. And you kind of unfortunately see me hit my breaking point. But I think I would have been a little bit more patient. I would have, just slowed down, listened a little bit more in those kind of moments. But in general, it's like I've always said I could stand by everything I said and did if they show it how it was done. And all I know is that I was doing the best I could with what I had. And ultimately, I'm proud of that.
I think you handled it well. Like I do. I think that being completely like taken off guard like that, especially after not knowing that he had left his fitting and everything, and then all of a sudden he's just like, okay, well, we're done now. I think you handled that very, very well, to be honest. But I love how you called out when you were sitting on the couch, and this was the other narcissistic moment that I was talking about. And you were like, I'm sitting here crying, and he just sat and stared at you. And I was like, that is not okay again.
No, I know. Just from a human standpoint, it's like it would have been nice to just see him have a little bit of empathy.
Yes.
Just to at least acknowledge that we were in this together. And, I think that's really why at the end of it, I said to him, like, you always have a place in my heart. And like, I thanked him for being a part of my journey. And I actually thanked him on my latest Instagram post again, because it's important to me to honor this experience for everything that it was, and ultimately honor, what my heart was doing in that moment. So.
And I think you handled it with grace, and I think you handled it with like integrity. Your heart was on your sleeve, and like, it was a very raw moment, but I thought it was very, at the end when you thanked him and you said all that, I was like, you and I are very different in that situation. First of all, he gave me the ick instantly after you guys broke up, and he went and picked up his suitcase, and that man picked it up like an open book and carried it through the kitchen. And as soon as the wheel bumped the side of, I was like, oh gosh, that's the ick. I can never get it back.
I know, I totally hear that.
Did you have any regrets picking Joe over any of the other connections?
I didn't have regrets. I think, I really explored all of my connections thoroughly. And I actually did go to proposal day with 2 people. And I ultimately felt in that moment that I was following my heart and doing the right thing.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh, well, thank you so much for coming on. We're going to wrap this one up quick. Hopefully we can get you back on for the reunion. But
I love that.
yes, thank you so much for coming. And yeah, guys, we will post everything. We'll share everything. Kyle, you have any finishing words?
No, just this is such a great, I'm so glad you came on, and I'm glad we were able to do this.
Oh, me too. Thank you guys. I would love to be back. Seriously, you guys are so
Yes. Thank
Yay,
you.
awesome. Alrighty, guys, we'll see you next week.
Okay, bye.
Bye.